Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion today. Our event is entitled Freshness First, Navigating the Challenges of Home Delivery for Quality Home Food. I'm Scott Benedict with McMillan Doolittle, a retail consulting firm based in Chicago, and I'm happy to welcome you to our panel discussion today. Now, during this engaging and informing panel discussion, we'll delve into the vital realm of freshness management in the home delivery and e-commerce space. In this session, we'll explore the significance of maintaining food's freshness and its profound impact on both online retailers and on consumers. Now, as demand for home delivery services continues to soar, ensuring the quality and the freshness of delivered products becomes even more paramount. We'll dive into the challenges faced by online retailers and by their suppliers in maintaining the highest standards of freshness while meeting the ever-growing expectations of consumers. And to do so, we're bringing together industry experts, thought leaders, and professionals to share their insights, perspectives, and expertise. And whether you represent a retailer, a supplier, or simply have a passion for fresh food, this panel promises to be a dynamic exchange of knowledge and ideas, and we're glad you could join us today. Now, joining us on our panel is Natasha Telramani. She's the head of quality, safety, and sustainability for Marley Spoon, one of the leaders in the online meal delivery space. We're happy to have her. We're also joined by Yov Levy. He's the co-founder and CEO of Evigence Solutions, a food technology company that provides real-time freshness data and empowers everyone throughout the food delivery supply chain. We're happy to have him with us. We're also joined by Dr. Bill Hallman, professor of nutritional sciences at Rutgers University and the former director of the Rutgers Food Policy Institute. And welcome to all three of you. And Bill, I thought I would come to you first and kind of set the stage in a macro view of the challenges that you have seen in your work and what steps that industry can take to collaborate and effectively navigate between retailers, distributors, and logistics providers to ensure kind of a seamless coordination in fresh food delivery and fresh management. What are your thoughts?
Well, let me begin with how I began with all of this, which is receiving a gift box of some very expensive steaks from a colleague of mine. And unfortunately, the box was delivered on Friday to my office, and I didn't come into the office until the following Tuesday. And I do work in food safety, opened the box, and immediately wondered, is this okay? And realized, that I couldn't be the only one with those kinds of questions, and really wished that I had some visible indicator that, what was in the box was still okay to eat. So that's sort of how I began all of this. And then was fortunate enough to have a grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to investigate this throughout the proteins delivery sector. So we had the opportunity to order from more than 160 vendors who are online, who will ship you fresh meat, poultry, seafood, and game products. And those are delivered by UPS and FedEx, and did an extensive study of what was in the box and found, unfortunately, about half of the meat products, the protein products, had one or more surface above 41 degrees, so out of the temperature range. That then led to one of my colleagues, Ben Chapman at the University of North Carolina, looking specifically at meal kits. And he did a similar study and found that about 75% of the deliveries that they got had one or more products, mostly protein products, in the boxes that were out of the temperature range. So this is not good news for consumers. And what I have urged FDA and others is really to require some sort of temperature sensor in the boxes to let consumers know whether the products are fresh or not.
Interesting. Interesting. Natasha, in your role, what are some of the primary challenges that Marley Spoon faced in maintaining freshness and the quality of the fresh food in your home delivery service to consumers?
So our vision is simple. It's building a better everyday just for you, just right. And while that sounds simple, there is definitely a list of challenges that go along with it. But for the sake of time, maybe I'll mention the top three. And the first one is, when you talk about freshness and quality, it's not one thing. It is the packaging, it's the label, it's temperature of the product, it's how it tastes. It's maybe that an insect crawled in your box while it was waiting on your porch. So it's a lot of things. And hence, it's a lot of things to get right. And then you need to have a perfect box. So I think that's kind of challenging to focus on every single thing that may also be out of your control. And talking about out of your control, the second challenge is the last mile. So when I talk about the last mile, that's just lack of visibility and transparency once the box leaves our fulfillment center. The slightest thing can go wrong and it's a disaster. It can be like the driver just flipped the box during the transit and here we go, the ice is no longer close to the protein. And one complaint is way too many complaints. And as not realistic that sounds, it really is too many complaints. And Dr. Holman mentioned about UPS and FedEx. We have all heard about the UPS strike, and we also know that increased issues with FedEx because they were having capacity issues after that. So I think that is definitely a huge challenge to consider. But then the last, not the least, is the climate risk management. The consequences of extreme weather events like the heat waves, the floods are increasing not only in frequency, but also in intensity in many areas where Marley Spoon also operates, resulting in increased climate risk. The climate also determines how much ice and insulation goes in the box, which now is becoming harder and harder to predict. I mean, we all know the recent one, Hurricane Hilary, brought Southern California its first ever tropical storm. So that's maybe just a short list of challenges.
It sounds pretty intense and sounds like a great system for managing that is critical. And Evigence's freshness management system is kind of a novel technology that can help home delivery companies manage freshness and even guarantee freshness for each shipment at the moment that arrives in the consumer's home. Can you tell us a little bit about how that system works?
Sure. So it's a combination of cost-effective sensors that are applied at the box level and are very accurate, calibrated for the requirements of the WHO, and received by the consumer, scanned by any camera, phone, or any other device that has a camera in it. And you get the cumulative temperature the product has absorbed over the time of the shipment. And with that, you have information as to the amount of aggregate temperature the product itself was exposed to. And from that, you can deduct freshness, quality, or was it within the specs or not. All this information goes into a database that creates for customers multiple points of scanning. So now they have visibility into the cold chain and how products arrive at consumers' homes.
It's awesome. Now, Natasha, I understand that Marley Spoon launched Evidence's freshness management system this last year, replacing maybe a more traditional cold chain testing program that relied on data loggers. Can you tell us a little bit about how your company has implemented this and in your operations and maybe the impact that it's had on your business?
Yeah, definitely. We used to send the data loggers, which record the temperature throughout the transit, to a handful of customers every week. So I think the first one that has been helpful is just increasing the sample size. So it went from a handful of customers to 5% to 30% and hopefully to 100% of customers in near future. And once you send the physical logger, you are expecting the customer to go to a FedEx or a UPS and give it back to us, which obviously means that one, it's not real-time data. Two, some of the data loggers just get lost in the transit, which means it's also cost intensive. Not talking about how we had to physically break the production floor to take these boxes out and put the sensors in, which means it was a very labor intensive, unlike maybe the sensors that we're using currently. But then also we could not really measure the customer impact because these handful of people signed up to get these data loggers. However, now we are able to measure how our customer feel about these sensors. Like now we know the 70% of our customers do scan the Evigence sensors that we are providing them. 73% also indicated increased confidence in the quality of food, and about 76% indicated improved trust in our brand. And we also asked our customers if they would like this to become like a part of their box. Like Dr. Hallman was talking about, maybe FDA should just be like, you know what, this is just going to be part of the box. This is the law, and that's what it is. But 78% of the customers actually said they want to see it in their box.
Interesting. Tasha, let me follow up on some of your points about consumer engagement. It feels like inspiring trust is critical to your business and to building customer loyalty over time. Am I thinking about that the right way?
No, definitely. And let's be honest, perception is reality. At the end of the day, when you order food, you want to know your food will be fresh and of good quality and eat the meal with your family as well. While we have the data, as mentioned earlier, that customers do want to see that in their boxes, as part of their box, in every single box, we haven't been able to necessarily correlate that with order ordinal just yet. But I think the increased transparency from the customer end also means that our customer inbound calls has reduced because they already have the answer if they can consume the meal or not.
Wow, that is awesome. And Bill, I would imagine that consumer expectations for freshness and for quality and the industry's approach to measuring and managing fresh food for home deliveries, well, that's becoming increasingly critical, and in the competitive business space, inspiring that confidence in the consumer feels like how companies like Marley Spoon can really differentiate themselves. Are we thinking about that the right way?
Yeah, no, I think so. I agree. And one of the things to keep in mind. So I'm a psychologist, and I study how consumers think about food safety issues. And one of the things that is, we don't think about so much is that most of the things that we worry about in terms of food safety, in terms of freshness, are invisible to the consumer without some ability to take the temperature of the products, to look closely. It's really impossible for consumers to know whether the product is of good quality or fresh. They want these things, but most consumers, for example, don't take out a thermometer and measure the meat when it comes from their favorite vendor. So having something that is convenient, easy for them to use, which gives them some definitive results, is really kind of a breakthrough. The other thing that I'll say is when we talk to consumers about meal kits and about these sort of these kinds of deliveries of proteins, is that particularly for millennial consumers and those who are younger, they're actually learning to cook based on the recipes provided by companies like Marley Spoon. It's one of the reasons they order a meal kit, for example. So by helping to teach them about food safety, including freshness, including quality indicators, we're actually better preparing the next generation of consumers and resetting their expectations.
That is neat. That is so exciting. And it feels like that this really improved customer experience when you consider the amount of work that went into that, the data that your solution generates and provides. It feels like that's a pretty complex solution. Is it as complex as it seems, or how has your technology enabled this kind of neat experience?
So we use complex technology to make it simple for our customers, right? So ultimately, it is basically putting a sensor in a form of a label on the product itself and then monitoring it using tools that you currently have in your disposal. The ability to measure freshness, or the ability to measure the cumulative temperature of product absorbed at a case level or even a unit level, is something completely new and is something extremely important, because even on one pallet, you have a variations of temperature that have a strong effect on the shelf life of the product. And the ability to monitor the product from inception until it's used, and not just for parts of the journey of the product, allow you to really know and push the envelope of the product that is kept in good conditions, and alert you when it's not kept in good conditions.
That's exciting. Natasha, I'd love to hear about how you use some of this data and these analytics that Evigence's solutions provide. Maybe what's some of the most valuable, or maybe some of the most surprising insights that you've gotten out of your partnership with Evigence, and how has that impacted the way that your company makes decisions or manages your operations day to day?
So we are a data obsessed company and we make decisions purely based on data, and it's used in like every single unit operations, from the beginning when a customer orders a box to the time when customer provides us feedback, in this case scans and Evigence sensors. So referring back to our vision, building a better every day, just for you, just right, which means when you order a box with us, you get the right size of the box, you get the correct amount of the ice to keep the product fresh for you to consume. And I think Evigence data has shown us that our customers are so kind to provide is sometimes the box can be late, Friday to Monday, as Dr. Holman gave an example, and it can still be fresh. And that's something, you don't think about as a company, but then which then means there's an opportunity to make the box even more dynamic, even more perfect, according to the weather, which we cannot predict. But what we can do is we can take actions, adjust the ice and insulation based on the real-time data we get from Evigence, and improve that for the next customer. And I think another one that really surprised me was, how all meal kits are normally set up. There's like a couples and there's like a family version, and the portion size like depends on it. So when we were initially setting up our project with the Evigence team, we were interested to know like if couples will scan more or like family members will scan more. And I had an opinion where I was like, oh, couples have more time in life, they'll probably scan more sensors. But I was proven wrong by a margin of 5%. Family team members or customers actually scanned much more, which now makes sense because family people will probably be more concerned about the food safety and the quality and the freshness. So I think that was the one which was a little surprising to me, just maybe because I had an opinion or don't have kids. But I think the last one that I think is very helpful for us is, with the sensor information, we have been able to identify room for opportunity with our last mile carriers and with the transport segments that we have set up, especially in holidays and severe weather conditions, as I mentioned, because that's the time when our carriers are the most vulnerable. But then we also learn from that and use it for the next holiday, which always will happen, and the severe weather conditions, which clearly are not going away. So I think that piece of information has been very helpful to just keep improving our processes and keeping our customers happy.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And And Bill, considering the importance of food safety and public health, some of the things that Natasha was touching on there, what considerations when measuring fresh food during the home delivery process, maybe what regulatory changes do you believe, from your perspective, maybe our industry should consider?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm a proponent of including sensors in these kinds of deliveries to make what is essentially the invisible visible to consumers and to the companies that are providing these particular products. As the cost of sensors continues to drop, I think it becomes a lot more affordable for companies to do this. Consumers want this, and I think it just makes sense for regulatory bodies to make this happen for consumers.
Makes a lot of sense. And Yov, as someone who works in this space every day, could you share maybe what's your vision for the future of managing fresh food deliveries? What are your thoughts on where the industry and where technology is taking us?
So this webinar is focused on the last mile and e-commerce deliveries, but the same issues of temperature control are present in everything that has to do with food. And so we're working with food distributors, retailers, producers to manage the shelf life of the product on a case level. And our long-term vision is to go down even to the unit level. So even when you go into a retail store, as in the UK right now, where they're taking off a lot of the best before dates, you will have something to base your decision on if to consume or not, which really makes a lot of sense, and is not just a printed date that has nothing to do with the actual quality of the product itself. So we do see a B2B application that evolves into a B2C application, and that consumers will see this in the supermarket stores.
Makes a lot of sense. So as I watch time, we're coming to the end of our time together, but I want to offer each of our panelists maybe opportunity to share some final thoughts. And Natasha, if it's okay, I'd like to go to you first. As we kind of wrap up this topic in our session today, anything you'd like to share with our viewers in terms of this technology, the impact it's had on your business, and perhaps most importantly, on your customers?
Yeah, I think we have already seen that customers are interested in seeing it in their every box that they receive, which is very exciting. At the same time, I say this technology is growing these days like crazy. I wish food technology and the technology in food safety world also grows at the same rate as, for example, AI. And that's maybe my personal wish or request to the people who make technology out there.
That's a great point. And I will tell you that as a lifelong retailer, the customer experience, including how the customer perceives the experience, is paramount to not only customer satisfaction and repeat business, but ultimate lifetime value out of that engagement. So it's exciting to see this. Bill, you've really talked about how this topic of food safety and public health remains critical, and that technology is playing a wonderful role in bringing those capabilities to life. Any closing thoughts from your perspective on what we discussed today?
Yeah, and let me pick up on a point that Yov made. Consumers really do want to have some certainty. We waste an awful lot of food because we are uncertain about the freshness and the quality of the products. And so this is an opportunity to reduce that, to improve food safety, to improve nutritional quality, and to really reduce the waste of perfectly good food because we're just not certain as to whether it's okay or not.
Important point. And Yov, I want to give you the last word, because your technology and your company have made a lot of this conversation possible today. And to your earlier point, it extends beyond just the delivery space to throughout the food supply chain. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up our session today?
So continuing Bill's point regarding the creating transparency in the system, the food system as a whole is one of the inefficient systems globally, and that's hurting our planet. That's hurting people's pockets. And what we would like to do is create a dent in the ability of people to just use the product in a better way, in a smarter way, help suppliers, help producers, distributors, retailers use the product in a better way for the benefit of everybody. And that is why we're so delighted to partner with people like Marley Spoon and Natasha to introduce new technology and innovation to a space that needs a lot of innovation to make our planet a better place.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you for that, and to Natasha, Bill, and Yov. Thank you to all three of you for sharing your perspectives on this very important topic in our industry. We'll share each of our speakers' contact information on the slide that you're looking at. If you'd like to ask any of us questions afterward or learn more about this exciting advancement in technology, certainly any of our speakers would be happy to talk with you. With that, again, thank you for attending. I'm Scott Benedict. It's been my pleasure to join you today. Thank you and have a great day.